And the reason it's hard to keep these houses maintained or whatever is because code enforcement, they do find properties, they do whatever they have to do that's in their job description, but the only problem is it's hard to find the owners of the properties, whether they're banks or just private owners. So the vacant property registration will require whoever just to register the property if it's vacant, and it would make it easier for code enforcement to track down these owners and hold them accountable for their property not being held up to code. And this in turn would not only bring in the city revenue, but would also decrease any illegal activities that go on and make the neighborhood overall safe, because in a tour that we have with the mayor and city staff and Councilmember Beckles, we've seen a lot of these houses in these neighborhoods that have just been abandoned, broken into, burnt down. We even came across right on scene during our tour that there were people in the back of one of the vacant properties doing whatever, and they quickly left as soon as they seen a bunch of news cameras and people surrounding the area. So it's just an example of the need of the community and the need of this vacant property registration. With this registration, if we can pass it with the Planning Commission's recommendations, it would once again help bring in city revenue and decrease crime and violence and any other illegal activity that happens around these vacant properties.
Particularly that I'm talking about the city of Richmond develops, as the city develops housing, it needs to be important to continue to invest in affordable housing for those who can't afford to just buy anything they want. We don't want to see our neighborhoods gentrified and our low-income neighbors forced out of Richmond. This is happening already as many affordable houses are being bought by investors, and the rents are being rented for a higher price. We need to see the city strengthen inclusionary housing provisions to limit circumstances in which developers pay in lieu fees. The lieu fees need to be raised so that they are incentive for the developers to actually spend the money to build affordable housing. And also we want them to be give them incentive to build affordable housing, or if not, then we would have enough money in the city to do something about developing some affordable housing ourselves. We need to control the sale of these affordable housing so that they aren't just bought up by people who have a higher income. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time to build affordable housing. You need to be able to make it available to those who can least afford it. We believe that healthy neighborhoods are made of a diversity of income levels. We want to see pockets of poverty and don't want to see pockets of poverty and pockets of prosperity, but rather diversity of income throughout our neighborhoods. We'd also like to see the city expedite the development of a community land trust to stabilize neighborhoods and increase the supply of affordable housing. And that's for this reason we're asking the City Council to adopt the housing element with the recommendations of the Planning Commission.
Great, thank you. I'll start out by saying I think Reddy and Ace knows that I support all the recommendations that you have put forward, and I thank you for your work in putting them forward, and thank you to the Planning Commission for your approving these recommendations and as they come to the City Council. I also want to say that I am upset that this didn't come forward today, the housing element recommendations to the City Council. Our staff can do a lot better. They really need to be in better communication with community groups. So I want you to know that, and I have already talked to the city manager, communicated with him, and he agrees that staff needs to do better. So that's one thing. Now the other thing is, when it does come forward, I know we don't have the support of all our council members. Like I said, I think you know you have my support. I know you have Councilmember Beckles' support as well. Some of the other council members may support some of the things, but not all of them. But For example, the tenant protection is something I feel very, very strongly about. I'm a renter myself, and we tried in 2004 and 2005 to bring forward a just cause eviction ordinance and a fair rent ordinance. Some of you were involved with that. I know Urban Habitat was involved with that, very much so. We have some opposition to that. I don't think it's fair because we have 50% of Richmond residents who rent, and we also have a large low-income population. And we have a foreclosure crisis that just occurred, in 2008, and is still impacting people, putting people out of their homes. And these people are often either homeless or moving into a position of being renters. So I feel very strongly about this. Like I said, there isn't agreement on the city council for this, and that's disappointing. I do want to state that we'll keep, I thank ACE for its advocation of this. Keep advocating. There will come a time when we can move something like this forward. If not now, later. The issues of blight, I think we have support on the council for that. The issues of the registry, I think that's such an important thing. I think Oakland has already done this. So I'm going to keep working with some council members who have some reticence and with our city attorney on that. Not have developers always use the in lieu fees. Let's make them higher so that they are disincentivized to do the in lieu fee and instead do actual affordable housing.
That's right.
So, ACE deserves great credit for bringing these ideas forward. Also, the land trust. The community land trust is a wonderful idea. We've done a study session. Reddy was the presenter. And ACE, of course, as a part of Reddy, and that's another opportunity for people to really have opportunities for housing. Ownership, in this case, even if they don't own the land individually, they own their homes on the land. That's a community land trust. What a wonderful idea for affordable housing. So all these ideas, you have my support. I'll continue to advocate for these along with you, side by side. That's how we build a better community, side by side, community and those elected officials who will stand with the community that advocates for these progressive policies. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I want you all to know I respect you all so much. I respect what you're doing in this community, your love for the community, your love for justice, and so I think that as a city, we are incredibly lucky to have groups like you who are advocating on behalf of those who don't have a voice, who can't come up, who don't feel like when they do speak that anybody's listening. So, I've gotten emails from these associations, the apartment associations and different individuals, and I have to say, I'm not hating, I can respect these businesses and owners. I can respect their desire to make a profit, that's not a problem. But I wasn't elected to protect their profits. I was elected to protect individuals, the people of Richmond, and to give them opportunities, to have the quality of life that we all desire and that we all deserve. So I support all of the modifications that you all presented to me. I had a chance to sit down with Christy and who was it, Dave, I think, the other last week, and it's reasonable. It makes sense. It's I really don't see anything that's unreasonable about anything you're asking for. I don't even see anything that's unreasonable about having brought it forward today. But we don't live in a perfect world, and my hope is that hopefully that as you all continue to speak and speak out, that the council members who currently don't support those modifications would in turn around and see that, as I said, we were elected, to improve the quality of life of our residents. At least that's my goal, and that's my desire, that's my passion. And so I believe that this is one of those ways and these types of policies that help increase and improve the quality of life for Richmond residents. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Officials in City Hall, and part of that was the Planning Commission. as with the general plan, we met with the planning commissioners ahead of meeting with city council folks, and we had good responses from them. We've had some great allies championing ready policies throughout. So I want to bring up next Planning Commissioner Andres Soto, who's just been really wonderful and a great ally with our coalition.
At the Planning Commission, we saw the staff recommendations. When it came to the issue of a rent stabilization board, they said, we recommend studying the issue to determine whether or not rent stabilization would be appropriate in the city of Richmond, and we repudiated that. We said Richmond needs rent stabilization now. We don't need to study. We can study how to implement it, but it's not a question of whether or not we should have it. And that's the way we voted in a majority, and that was our recommendation to the City Council. Now, unfortunately, well, systematically, the City Council makes up its own mind about these issues, and then that's where all of us have to get together and put pressure on them to understand these are the needs of the people. As Gail referenced, in 2004, this notion first came up out of this coalition to establish rent stabilization and just cause eviction. But at that time, the Apartment Owners Association got together with the mayor, Irma Anderson, and with City Council member Maria Teresa Viramontes and completely gutted the notion, and we're stuck here still without renter protection. In a community with over 50% renters, the East Bay Housing Law Clinic in Berkeley, more than half of their cases come from Richmond, even though they're based in Berkeley and deal with people from Oakland, Berkeley, Stanley, and half of their cases come from Richmond because we have such poor renter protection. And then we heard testimony from a realtor, and we've heard the same thing parroted by some of the city council members that, oh, well, you know, Berkeley has it, San Francisco has it, Santa Monica has it, but somehow it's not appropriate for Richmond. And we're saying, well, is that going to make, they're saying it'll make Richmond less desirable for developers. And we're saying, wait a minute, it don't seem like people are, you know, trying to beat down the doors over here, but they are trying to beat down the doors in Berkeley, Oakland, Santa Monica, and Richmond, where they do have these kind of protections for renters. So why are we holding the short end of the stick? And I think it's a conspiracy against the poor and working class in this community to keep us divided, to keep us poor and in our place.
Yes.
And that's the message we have to deliver to the City Council, that we don't want to be in our place anymore. It's time for Richmond to move forward. And that's why the inclusionary housing element of the ordinance is so important as well. Because we've already seen what happens under redevelopment, where they build out the marina and you get all these folks, high-income folks, who don't even come into the downtown, and they let the downtown fall apart. That's what the past city councils did, and we're here to say to the new city council that we don't want to see that pattern continue. It's about time you put the people of Richmond first and put the property speculators second. And so, you know, we need to end the way business is done. And so, you know, unfortunately it didn't come up tonight, but that just gives us another month to organize. So that means more pressure on the city council members, and especially let Tom Butt. We're very disappointed that Tom Butt has seen fit that he's already publicly stated he doesn't support rent stabilization. And, you know, that's very unfortunate, but that just means we have to work on Tom and let him see the error of his ways. So,
Thank you.
Members in the bank, what they told me is that they cannot give me the modification just because my check stubs were not acceptable. I work for the county, so how can they say that my check stubs are not acceptable? So I really want to work with you guys so I can receive the help that I need.
So what are we doing on Thursday?
A meeting in Auckland.
So she's with Bank of Wells Fargo. So Thursday at 3:30, we're going to go to Wells Fargo in downtown Oakland and shut it down with a couple other members so that they could pay attention to her case. Because she does qualify for the loan modification, as do others. And so if those of you that want to support us, want to join us, talk to me afterwards. But we're going to go this Thursday at 3:30 in downtown Oakland to Wells Fargo to make sure that they sit down and pay attention to her case and help her keep her home.